Hello, everybody. It's Helen Panos. Welcome back to my Thursday, actually StreamYard Live and Facebook Live. And today I have a guest with me. I've been doing these weekly, but I have a guest, and her name is Heather Wright. Welcome, Heather.
Hello.
And we are both actually former educators in the school system in the metro Atlanta area. We won't mention which one, that's not important. And so Heather has started her own business, and I wanted to bring her on because of what she does. And I'm seeing a whole lot of things going on in my own tutoring business. And those of you that don't know me, I'm the owner of Dynamis Learning Academy. It's a K through 12 tutoring business. We also help your children through trying to navigate the school system the best we can in terms of helping them with their subject matters. And we might sometimes have to talk with the teachers, which we do, and we ask you to connect us with the teacher, because a lot of times it's the teacher that spends the majority of the day and week with your children, more so than we do as a tutoring company or you do as a parent.
Right.
So it's becoming more and more important nowadays to actually connect with a teacher, and they will talk with us a little differently than they will a parent or even maybe a student. So I am here. We also do SAT, ACT prep, SSAT, a lot of that recently, because this is about the time to be doing some prep for that if your child is going into private schools. And so we're doing all kinds of stuff. And thank you to Heather for all her referrals lately.
They've
I
been coming out of the woodwork, Helen.
know, gosh, and it's a lot of ninth graders.
I see that advanced bio and the algebra, and I was like, I'm going to send them to Helen.
So we're helping. I talked to one today, actually. I haven't had time to look, but you might have referred that one too. So I want to introduce Heather and her background. She is a special ed educational consultant who works with families of children with learning disabilities, autism, developmental delays, behavior disorders, and other health impairments. They call them OHI for short. You may refer to them as that in the real world, those of you that are in the special ed arena, to get the supports and the services that kids need in the public school setting through collaborations, because that's important. And she is a certified special education teacher with more than 15 years experience.
It's actually
And
16
also,
now, Helen.
how many? How many?
It's over 16 at this point.
Over 16 now. And also a master IEP coach. And I'll let her tell you a little bit more about herself if she'd like to add a little bit to that. Can you?
That was a pretty good introduction, but yes, I was in the classroom until about 2 years ago, and Helen said that we were former educators, I think, and like to say that we're still educators.
That's true.
Doing it in a traditional setting. And I stepped out of the classroom and opened my own business as a special education consultant / advocate. I just saw that there was a huge need in the community with our families. And quite honestly, at the table, when I was sitting there as a special ed teacher, there was still stuff that I needed to know, of course, but I kind of got tired of not being able to help a family as much as I would have liked to. So I stepped out of that teaching role into still a teaching role, because I'm still educating parents and every caregivers about what they can ask for in the school level to be able to support their children. But yes, I'm a special education consultant who loves to collaborate and really help families get the supports that they need for their kids in that school setting.
That's a big thing. I think now, 2 years later, I think we might have exited the scene of the school system, maybe at the same time.
It was post-COVID, I would say, in the sense that I taught in person and virtually for a year, and that, I have to say, it kind of broke me a little bit, and I was feeling just a disconnect, and I just felt this passion to go somewhere else. So yeah, this will be the second full year that I've been out, I guess. So 2 years ago.
It does seem strange not being right there in the classroom after I've had 25 years. And you're right. Once you're an educator, you are always an educator. We're just kind of taking a little different role now.
Yeah.
We are CEOs of our company and know kind of what's best for parents and for students. I'll put it that way.
Ma'am, absolutely.
So what is one way parents can be sure that they have input at the IEP table, Heather?
Good question. So I'm going to plug the podcast here for a minute, Helen, but I'll be on the podcast later on this month. And I know that we had talked about this briefly. I think you recorded it like a month ago or so at this point, but it's still kind of relevant as of today. So the biggest way that you can have input into your child's education is when you're coming to an IEP table, you get that notice of meeting that the teacher emails you and says, hey, it's time for the annual review. And you're probably dreading that email, to be honest. There's a lot of my families are like, oh, I don't want to have to do that. I work with families on creating a parent input statement that generates questions related to the whole child. So in that parent input statement, you might hear things like, what are your child's strengths? What is your child's weaknesses? And this is all coming from you as a parent. So what are they doing at home that's good, that's not so good? What kind of goals do you have? But something else that I include in those parent input statements are questions that you have for the team. And people are like, what do you mean questions? Like, should I be asking questions before the meeting? Absolutely. They need to know what those questions are and not just asking them at that meeting. Because, I mean, Helen, I'm sure that you've been at meetings and somebody says, well, what questions do you have? And they get the crickets. They're like, deer in the headlights. I don't know what to ask. Does this question sound stupid? So it's kind of, before you get to the meeting, you generate this input statement that includes questions that you have for the team so that when you get to the team, they, one, come with potential answers. Two, they come with potential solutions to those questions or concerns that you have. And you don't have to be put on the spot for what are you thinking about for your child. So parent input statement is the first thing, but what I'm going to get to next, and I think that's where you're going with it, is asking questions at that table and asking them before you get to the meeting. Don't just wait.
And I was going to back up just a second. I guess we shouldn't assume everybody knows what an IEP is. I know what it stands for, Individualized Education Plan, but can you tell our families that are watching, what is an IEP exactly?
Absolutely. So when your child is struggling in the RTI process, that's before special education, they might need to get more services. So when they're eligible for special education, and like Helen already shared, I work with families with autism, with other health impairments, with learning disabilities, behavior disorders. They're found eligible for special education, and then the team has to meet to develop a plan, an IEP, Individualized Education Plan. Sometimes you hear it as program. They mean the same thing in the world of special ed, so it doesn't matter which acronym you use. But that plan is how your child is going to be successful. What accommodations, what supports, what goals and objectives do they need to work on? What learning environment are they going to be in that they can get that most support that they can?
Okay, great. Thank you. And if parents aren't sure, going back to the questions of what questions to ask at the meeting, then what do you suggest that they ask?
Yeah, I have 5 that I share with families that they can ask. So the first question I would probably always refer to is, how is progress going to be measured? So when you have an IEP, your child, the teachers put together strengths and needs for where your child is based on language arts, math, reading, science, social studies, behavior, social skills. I mean, it's a really strengths and needs for everything. And then those needs are typically developed into goals and objectives. And that's how you're going to track their progress. So you start with a baseline, and then interventions are in place, and then you see the data. Well, how is that going to be measured? It seems so easy to answer, but sometimes it's not. Are they going to be pulled into a small group? What interventions are they going to be using? How often is progress going to be sent home? So if you're in one of the neighboring districts, I will tell you that as of today, you should have already received your 9-week progress report. If you haven't, you need to make sure that you're asking your case manager or your child's case manager for that information. But how is progress going to be measured? Second one, what does communication look like? So I would probably say that 99% of the families that I work with come to me with minor problems, major problems, but it all stems from some form of lack of communication. Whether they wanted an email and they didn't get the email, whether the school team said they were going to do this and they didn't get it, or whether they said they were going to do something and the school team had a misunderstanding about that. So you want to document, how is that communication going to look, what is it going to look like? Is it weekly? Is it bi-weekly? Is it monthly? Is it daily? Ask what the communication looks like. You're also going to want to ask who is responsible for each of the services that are inside the IEP. Typically, they say, well, it goes to the case manager. And that's amazing. The case manager is your point of contact, but maybe it's OT, maybe it's an occupational therapist for OT services. Maybe it's a paraprofessional that's going to be supporting a child in recess. You want to know what and who is responsible for each of those roles, so that when you do come to the table, there's not a question about who did what, who didn't do what. Oh, I thought that Helen was supposed to take care of that and she didn't realize that she was. And then there's this disconnect. And again, back to communication where it falls. The fourth question that I just ask parents to ask, what do the supports look like on a daily basis? Right? So maybe they have speech and language services. Are those in a small group setting or are they in a whole group setting? How many students are in that group? You might think as a parent that, okay, I'm getting a one-on-one speech and language services. And in reality, it's one teacher to maybe 3 kids. So you need to kind of know, what does that look like, just so you know what your child is doing on a day-to-day basis. And then the last question that I suggest parents asking, what can I do to support you at home? It's as simple as that. Like, and it builds consistency. It allows for you to know what is happening at school. And it also helps the teachers too. Like,
Right.
And your kid, you know, if your kid is using X strategy at school and you're doing something at home that's different, then they're getting mixed messages, and that might, you know, hinder their progress. So be on the same page with that. Or if something is working at home, share that with the school team, so that you can know what, like, again, what the school is doing and what you're doing are the same thing. So again, how's progress going to be measured? Sorry, I'm looking down to make sure I don't forget. What does communication look like? Who's responsible for the supports and services? What do those services and supports look like on a daily basis? And how can I support at home? Those are my thoughts.
That's a lot. Yeah.
It is a lot.
Yeah. So is there anything you would suggest for parents to do if they still have questions after the IEP meeting is done?
Well, Helen, have you ever been to an IEP meeting? I know that you did a lot of 504s when you were in the classroom, but
yeah, but I had to enter some IEP meetings too before I was a 504 chair.
It's a lot. There's a lot of information being thrown at a parent and at school staff during those meetings. And first thing is, as a parent, take your own notes. Yes, there is somebody at the table that's taking notes and meeting minutes, but you don't know what notes they're taking too. And you need to have maybe a notebook or a piece of paper that you're jotting down your notes. So then you get home and you've had time to process it. You stopped at Starbucks after your meeting and you're like, oh, I should have thought about this. Or wait, did she really mean this when she said that? So I suggest that after the meeting, maybe not 10 minutes after the meeting, maybe wait like that 24 hours, process the information, and then send a follow-up email or letter that recounts kind of what your interpretation, of that meeting was, and what are the outcomes of that meeting. And if you had any additional questions, it just clarifies what was happening, what your interpretation, and again, goes back full circle to the communication piece. So if you heard communication is going to happen on a daily basis and the school team meant, well, that's not on a daily basis, it's going to be on a weekly basis, and that's where you can kind of clear up that. So yes, keep notes for yourself at the meeting, but then send that follow-up letter or email just that recounts what your interpretations of it with those extra questions for the school team.
Cool. I was trying to not have my information blaring down there at the bottom with yours, but there we go. Now I got it. So Heather can be definitely reached at her email, which is right there, hwright@consultant@gmail.com. Reach out to her. You do a 30-minute consultation. Is that correct?
I do. So anybody who reaches out to me, you can email me, or you can visit my website at heatherwrightconsultant.com, and it'll allow you to click on a link and do your free consultation. Even if you see my other services on there, even if you want to do an IEP review, or you want me to do some advocacy for you behind the scenes, or you want me to attend a meeting, I still will want to do that 30-minute consult. It's important for me to get some background information, and honestly, to make sure that we're a right fit to working together. So reach out there. You can email me, and I'm happy to do your free 30-minute consultation. And I'm not a traditional salesman, so I'm not going to make you like absolutely buy from me. But, you know, if you're needing support, please reach out. There are people like myself that can help, and you don't have to be alone at that table.
Right. Yeah. And it's much better, parents, if you get that support, because what I'm seeing is school systems are overwhelmed. We already know this from the media, right? I mean, this is not, actually, I think the media is probably not talking about it as much as what's going on. Not to alarm people, but there's a lot going on in the school systems right now. And they are otherwise preoccupied with a lot of things, right? Because of COVID. And so it's definitely, you want to make sure you have somebody on your side, because we were talking about this with Heather not too long ago about RTI, and one I had to, you know, work on with one we were tutoring. So you definitely, otherwise you're going to get a response possibly from a school that's not a very like correct response. Let's put it that way. So you definitely need somebody. Don't take anything that you hear at heart from the schools. Reach out to Heather, myself, somebody that can help support you and make sure that what they're telling you is correct.
Right.
Because there's a lot of resources there for you.
There are, and again, it's a free consult, so please reach out and ask. And you know, even if you're sitting questioning what they're saying and you're not angry or upset about something, it's still okay to reach out to somebody, whether it's Helen for, you know, tutoring services, or, you know, she has a vast amount of knowledge and resources too, or somebody like myself that you're just like, is this accurate? Like, I think maybe this could be better. Like I'm doing a consult next week, and she reached out and she was like, I just want to know what I can ask. So it doesn't sound like she's upset about, you know, in general. I haven't spoken to her yet, so I don't know exactly where she's at, but what she gave me was more just, I feel alone is basically what she said. You know, I don't know what to ask. What can I ask for in the system? What's being provided? And that's what my job is. It's to help you.
And unless parents, you're going to do a lot of research on your own, you might want to just reach out to Heather and have a chat with her.
Yeah. And honestly, try not to Google, because some of the terminology just gets crazy. And then you're like, I don't even know what that means. And there's so many acronyms in special education that you're like, I don't know. What's an IEP? What's an FBA? What's ABC data? All of what's RTI? All of the things. So
yeah. That's correct. That's correct. There's a lot of acronyms. As a matter of fact, I'm running a series of blogs right now every Tuesday night on Dynamis Learning Academy. One hit this past Tuesday about all these acronyms and what do they mean. But if you want to catch Heather's blog, Heather's going to be writing a blog for me. I think that's going to be rolling out either at the end of the month, around the 25th, I think. And it'll hit my Dynamis page. But if you want to get on my email list so you could get that, reach out to me at helen@dynamislearningacademy.com, and I'll add you to the list so you can catch her blog and what she's going to be saying about some important information related to the
Absolutely. And hopefully we've given you some good information, but check that podcast out too at the end of the month. Helen has amazing podcasts.
Yes, go to my website. Blogs are up there at the top. Podcasts are out there on the top as well. So every week the podcasts are rolling out every Thursday morning. Every Tuesday evening the blogs are out. That's awesome. Check out this month. It's a lot about resources. That's our theme for the month.
I'm excited for it. And I'm glad. Thank you for bringing me on today and just sharing a little bit about, you know, questions for special ed. And again, I hope that our watchers and viewers, if you're watching on the replay, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you. And if I'm not the right fit, I know some people, so I can definitely share with you other people if it's not me.
Awesome. Well, great. Thank you very much, Heather.
You're so welcome.
Everybody have a great rest of your week.
Enjoy.
Bye for now.